What up guys, Randoms here, and let's talk about Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 4. So what happened in this episode? Actually a lot happened. Daenerys has lost another dragon, as you guys just saw in the video. But in the last episode, I talked about why I thought Cersei Lannister would win this entire thing, and now I think that is truer than ever, for the following reason. Check this out. Daenerys has lost another dragon. She has lost a ton of ships to the Greyjoy fleet. She has lost most of her army. I think she only marched up to King's Landing with like what, 200-300 unsullied soldiers. She's waiting on reinforcements from Jon Snow, but they have not arrived. And Daenerys continues to lose the people who are most loyal to her. And this is, we're going to come back to this in a minute because this is really important. But the issue here is that Daenerys really can't do anything to Cersei. I mean, Cersei has weapons that could kill her remaining dragon, which means it's vulnerable. And the fact is that it's not just the threat of Cersei, right? There's another issue going on here. So as we saw in this episode, Tyrion and Varys now know that Jon Snow is actually a Targaryen. And those two, especially Tyrion, who's her hand of the king, right? Who's hand of the queen. Tyrion and Varys are openly discussing whether or not to betray Daenerys Targaryen, whether or not they should instead back Jon Snow. This presents a real problem for Daenerys, because if Daenerys at some point determines that, you know what, the internal threat is greater than the external threat, it may lead her to doing some crazy things. Now the issue here is that without Jon Snow, Daenerys actually has nothing left. She's lost most of her army, she's lost most of the people around her who were entirely loyal to her. What this means is that if Daenerys at some point, if there is an internal struggle between Daenerys' followers and Jon Snow's followers, right? Which leads to a struggle between Daenerys and Jon, people will choose Jon Snow. I mean, I think that's become absolutely clear that they will abandon Daenerys Targaryen, who at this point only has one dragon left, which is vulnerable. So, what may happen is that Daenerys Targaryen may end up going crazy, maybe might end up even trying to kill Jon Snow, which would mean that she would have nothing left. And if she were to do that, hypothetically speaking, that would mean that Cersei Lannister would win, because it would essentially be divide and conquer. The fact that Daenerys seems to consistently be losing advisors and people close to her that she can 100% rely on, I think is foreshadowing that the only people Daenerys has left around her are people whose allegiances will shift, people whose allegiances will change, as we saw with Tyrion and Varys. And on top of that, the reason why I think that there may be a real struggle between her and Jon is because Sansa sort of foreshadowed it in this episode. She told Tyrion that the men of my family don't do well going south. Her grandfather was killed by a Targaryen. Her uncle was killed by a Targaryen. Her father was killed by the Lannisters. Her brother was killed by the Lannisters. So I think this is foreshadowing that something might happen to Jon. And again, if something happens to Jon, it is over for Daenerys. It is done. Jon is Daenerys' only real link to reinforcements. And without Jon, Daenerys loses and Cersei Lannister wins this entire thing. Let me know what you guys think. How do you think it's going to go out? Do you think that Jon and Daenerys' union will be strong? Do you think that Daenerys is going to turn on Jon? Or even worse, do you think that people loyal to Jon are going to turn on Daenerys? And ultimately, what do you think that will lead to? Do you think that that will put Cersei in a prime position to take this whole thing if the people that she's fighting against begin squabbling amongst themselves? Let me know what you guys think. I'm very, very curious what happens in the next episode. Anyways, leave comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video if you want more videos on Game of Thrones as well as a ton of other things. And have an awesome day, guys. Randoms signing out.